I still remember the moment our scanners detected the signal buried beneath the asteroid's crust, a frequency older than our species, older than every star chart ever drawn. I should have turned back. I should have warned them, but instead, I touched it. Before I go on, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. I want to know how far my story travels across the stars. The light of the control room felt colder that day. My hands trembled, and somewhere deep inside the rock, something awakened. I stared into the screen, watching the waveform twist and ripple like a living thing. It was as if the universe itself had exhaled, and that breath was rushing through the void to reach me. We were on the fringes of the Helion Belt, a desolate corridor of drifting, shattered worlds, remnants of what once was. The spaceship, the Elysium, creaked beneath me, as if it too felt the weight of discovery. I felt the pull of something ancient, something profound, something that whispered of promises long forgotten. As I reached for the control panel, the room vibrated with an unsettling hum. The signal intensified, ringing in my ears, igniting a spark of fear deep within my gut. It felt like I was being drawn toward the very edge of reality, where time and space intertwined in chaotic harmony. My heart raced, and I could feel my breath quicken. In that moment of uncertainty, I realized I was standing at the precipice of something monumental, but there was no turning back. I pressed a button, initiating the scan. The data streamed in at a dizzying pace, revealing the impossible. Symbols danced across the screen, glyphs that seemed to pulse with an energy of their own. They were not just patterns, they were a language, a gateway to an understanding that had eluded humanity for millennia. I wanted to believe that we were on the verge of enlightenment, but deep inside, a nagging doubt whispered that this knowledge came with a cost. The crew was busy with their tasks, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the depths of my thoughts. Commander Voss, with his graying hair and stoic demeanor, was hunched over the navigation console, charting our course through the debris. He was the kind of man who would never show fear. He had seen the cosmos at its worst and had returned unscathed. But I knew that this time would be different. "Captain," he said, breaking my reverie, "are you getting anything from that signal? We should be at the coordinates soon." "Not yet," I replied, my voice steady, though turmoil churned beneath the surface. "But I can feel it. It's alive, Voss." His brow furrowed, and I could see the worry flash in his eyes. "Let's not get carried away. Ancient relics are one thing, but if this turns into a wild chase—" "It's more than a relic," I interrupted, a surge of excitement and fear coursing through me. "I believe it's a message, an oracle of sorts." Voss didn't respond immediately, his gaze drifting back to the screen. I could sense him weighing the implications of my words, weighing the fragile balance between ambition and caution. The cosmos often rewarded boldness, but it could just as easily punish it. As we approached the asteroid, the signal grew stronger. The darkness outside was punctuated by the sharp glint of distant stars, but they felt infinitely far away, as though we were stepping into an abyss. I stood, transfixed by the sight. The asteroid loomed large before us, jagged and foreboding, a silent sentinel of forgotten history. "Prepare the excavation team," I ordered, my voice echoing off the pulled metal walls. "We're going in." The crew sprang into action, and adrenaline surged through me. I donned my space gear, my heart pounding with anticipation. I was ready to face whatever lay hidden beneath the surface. The weight of the moment hung heavy, a knowledge that we were on the verge of uncovering a truth that might change everything. As we descended, a part of me felt exhilarated, while another part whispered caution. I had read the tales of civilizations lost to their own discoveries, of technology that spiraled out of control, of empires brought to ruin by their ambitions. Would we become another cautionary tale in the annals of cosmic history? I shook my head, trying to dismiss the fears. The descent was smooth. We touched down on the surface with a soft thud. The outside airlock hissed as we disembarked, and I led the crew into the dim, cramped tunnels that snaked into the heart of the asteroid. The air was thick with anticipation, and every step echoed with a sense of foreboding. "Watch your step," I said, my voice a whisper in the silence. The walls shimmered with a strange luminescence, casting eerie shadows that danced around us. Each corner we turned felt like a threshold into the unknown, a reminder that we were not alone in this vast universe. We reached the chamber where the signal was strongest. In the center, a pulsing orb of energy rested on a pedestal, its surface rippling like liquid starlight. I felt a magnetic pull toward it, an almost primal desire to reach out and touch its surface. My fingers tingled with electricity as I approached. The air seemed charged with an energy I could hardly comprehend. I extended my hand, hovering just above the orb, unsure if I was ready for what might come next. It was then I heard it, a voice, as soft as a whisper, threading through my mind, speaking in a language I could almost understand. Awaken. The word resonated deep within me, and before I could pull back, I felt it, a surge of power coursed through my veins. In that moment, I understood the weight of history, the burdens of civilizations that had come before. I was not just a witness to this discovery, I was now a part of it. But as the energy enveloped me, chaos erupted outside. Alarms blared, lights flickered erratically, and the walls trembled as if the very asteroid was waking from a long slumber. I turned my head, but it was too late. The Elysium was under attack. In that instant, I realized that our awakening was not just a moment of discovery. It was the catalyst for something far greater. The cosmos had shifted, and with it came danger. My heart raced as I faced the turmoil outside, the weight of the Oracle's call still heavy in my mind. I had touched the unknown, and now I had to confront the consequences. The crew was busy with their tasks, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the depths of the asteroid. I glanced around the control room, taking in the flickering lights and the shadows that danced across our faces, painting us in hues of apprehension and excitement. Commander Ilara was in her element, barking orders as each crew member worked in synchrony. But my mind was trapped in a different realm, one where the ancient signal pulsed like a heartbeat. I could feel its rhythm, the way it beckoned me, urging me to delve deeper into its mysteries. Each pulse seemed to echo with a promise, as if the very fabric of the cosmos had woven this moment into the tapestry of fate. My fingers brushed the console, hovering over the holographic display, contemplating the implications of what we had found. The glyphs glowed brighter, swirling like constellations in a cosmic dance, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were alive. "Status report?" Ilara's voice broke through my reverie. Her eyes, sharp and focused, darted to me, and I realized I had been staring too long. "Benson, are we ready for a deeper analysis?" "Yes, Commander," I replied, trying to mask the uncertainty that gripped my throat. "The signal is stable, but it feels different, like it's what?" she pressed, her impatience palpable. "Like it's aware of us," I managed to say, and a hush fell over the room, as if my words had cast a shadow. The crew exchanged unsure glances, and in that moment, doubt clung to the air like an impending storm. Ilara's expression hardened. "We came here for answers, not to fear shadows. Initiate the deeper scan." With a nod, I activated the sequence, and the atmosphere shifted. The control room was filled with a low hum, a resonance that vibrated through my bones. I could feel it, the weight of countless eons pressing upon us, trapping us in its timeless embrace. The symbols danced more frantically, a chaotic ballet, and suddenly the screen flickered, displaying a series of images that made my heart drop. There it was, a vision of a grand fleet, glittering ships moving in unison across the cosmos. But they were not ours. They belonged to a civilization long gone, their strategies etched in the ancient glyphs that now surrounded us. I felt a pull, a longing to understand their purpose, their fate. The screen shifted, revealing a cataclysm, an annihilation that swallowed the fleet whole, darkness consuming the light. "What is this?" Ilara whispered, her voice barely audible. The room fell silent as we all stared, entranced and horrified. The images shifted again, showing a singular object at the center of it all, the relic, the very object we had unearthed. At that moment, a warning alarm blared, tearing me from the trance. Red lights flashed, and the control room erupted into chaos. My heart raced, and I fought against the tide of panic surging within me. "Status," Ilara shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "Power fluctuations," came a frantic reply from a crew member. "We're losing control of the ship's systems." I felt the ship shudder beneath us, a violent tremor that rattled our very existence. The relic was awakening, its power spilling over, disrupting the delicate balance of technology we relied upon. The signals intensified, screaming through the comms, warnings and data intermingling in a cacophony that drowned my thoughts. "Benson," Ilara barked, her eyes fierce, "we need to stabilize the power." I dove back to the console, fingers flying over the controls as I attempted to regain control. But the relic was relentless, drawing energy from the ship, feeding off our very essence. It felt like a sentient entity awakening from a slumber that had lasted eons, hungry for something we could not comprehend. The ship lurched again, and I could hear the crew's voices rising in panic. The walls of the control room felt like they were closing in, the weight of our discovery pressing down, suffocating. I had to focus, to channel what little clarity I had left. I had to understand what this relic truly was. "Commander, I need—" And then it happened. A bright flash erupted from the center of the control room, blinding us all for a moment. I shielded my eyes, stumbling backward as the darkness enveloped us. And in that instant, the ship's systems fell silent, the hum of life extinguished like a candle snuffed out by an unseen force. When I opened my eyes, the control room was cloaked in shadows. Alarms were silent, the screens dead, and the crew stood frozen in disbelief. The relic pulsed softly in the corner, a beacon of deep blue light in the oppressive darkness. It was as if we had crossed a threshold, one that separated us from the known and thrust us into an abyss of uncertainty. "Is everyone all right?" Ilara's voice broke the silence, shaky yet determined. I could see the fear etched on her face, a rare vulnerability that sent chills down my spine. We need to regain power," I stammered, still reeling from the shock. "If we don't, we'll be trapped here." I moved to the backup generator, praying it was still operational. I could feel the eyes of the crew on me, their hopes resting on my shoulders. The pressure was suffocating, but I had to push through. I could hear the pulse of the relic in the back of my mind, a reminder of the danger we faced. As I worked, I caught a glimpse of the view screen. The stars outside were different now, somehow more menacing. They flickered like distant, watchful eyes, witnessing our struggle. I felt a shiver run down my spine. We were not alone. With a final effort, I activated the backup generator. The control room flickered back to life, the screens glowing dimly as I gasped for breath. But the feeling of safety was fleeting. A surge of energy flared from the relic, disrupting our systems once more, and I knew that awakening it had only been the beginning. "Commander," I said, my voice trembling, "we need to leave. Whatever we've awakened, it's not done with us yet." My heart raced as I spoke, an overwhelming sense of dread washing over me. The ancient relic had stirred a force beyond our understanding, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were now at the center of a cosmic storm. As we prepared to navigate through the chaos, a haunting realization settled deep within me. The discovery of the relic had unleashed something far darker than we could have ever anticipated. The echoes of a forgotten past were rising again, and the universe was about to remind us of its secrets, secrets we might not survive to witness. The vastness of space often felt like a suffocating void. In the weeks following our discovery, it seemed to stretch endlessly, wrapping around me like a shroud. I became a ghost aboard the Elysium, haunting the corridors and control rooms, lost in thoughts that spiraled like distant galaxies. What lay beneath the asteroid's crust had awakened something deep within me, a fear that gnawed at my insides. I no longer recognized the mission, nor did I recognize myself. Every time I closed my eyes, the glyphs haunted me. They floated through my mind like phantoms, twisting and writhing, begging for interpretation. I could almost hear their voices, ancient and powerful, echoing through the silence of the cosmos. I had come to understand their importance, yet the weight of such knowledge bore down on me. I felt tethered to the past and disconnected from the present, as if the very essence of time itself had become fluid, slipping through my fingers like stardust. The crew continued with their duties, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within me. They laughed and shared stories during our meals, their voices vibrant against the sterile hum of the ship. I watched them from the shadows, longing to join them, yet a part of me felt like an outsider. I was a mere observer, standing on the edge of a chasm, unable to leap into the warmth of camaraderie. I had tasted the fruit of knowledge, but was unsure if I wanted to swallow it whole. One evening, as the ship drifted through the veil of night, I found myself gazing through the viewport, captivated by the stars that glittered like shards of ice against the blackness. They flickered with a beauty that felt both alluring and ominous. Each twinkle reminded me of the mysteries I had yet to uncover. As I pondered the insignificance of my existence in the grand tapestry of the universe, the silence weighed heavily upon me. I could hear my heartbeat, steady yet frantic, echoing in the stillness of the control room. If you've ever stayed silent because you knew the universe wouldn't listen, write yes in the comments. I needed to know if others felt this way, if the isolation I experienced was shared among those who traversed the stars. The cosmos could be a cruel companion, leaving us with nothing but our thoughts, our doubts, our fears. Days blurred into one another, and the operational reports became mundane. I buried myself in data, desperately seeking a deeper understanding of the relic we had uncovered. Yet, with each passing moment, the urgency of my discovery morphed into a sense of dread. The glyphs hinted at a power far beyond our comprehension. But what if that power was meant to remain hidden? I felt like a child playing with matches, oblivious to the fire I might ignite. And then it happened. As I sat alone in the dim light of the control room, the ship trembled slightly beneath me. The lights flickered, plunging the room into an eerie twilight. I straightened, heart racing as the hum of the ship shifted into a low growl. The screens around me erupted with chaos. Alarms blared, red lights flashing wildly. It was as if the Elysium itself was warning me, pleading for me to turn back. "Status report," I shouted, my voice barely rising above the cacophony. A crew member, panicked and breathless, rushed into the room. "Captain, we're experiencing massive system failures. Something is disrupting our power core." The realization crashed over me like a tidal wave. The relic, the ancient signal, it was awakening, and it was taking us with it. My heart was a drum, pounding in rhythm with the chaos surrounding us. My mind screamed for clarity, for a plan, but all I could think was that we had been warned. The glyphs, the whispers, they had been a prophecy, a warning wrapped in riddles. "Divert all power from non-essential systems. Focus on stabilizing the core," I ordered, though a part of me questioned whether it would even matter. As the crew scrambled to obey, I felt the ship lurch again, more violently this time. The lights dimmed further, and I could see the fear in my crew's eyes reflected in the flickering glow. They were looking to me for guidance. What could I offer them when I was wrestling with my own terror? A voice in my mind urged me to run, to hide, but I couldn't abandon them. I wouldn't. Instead, I forced myself to focus on the relic and its connection to the chaos unfolding around us. Was it a weapon, a beacon, or a catalyst for something far worse? Amidst the turmoil, I thought I could hear it. A resonance beneath the surface, a haunting melody that vibrated through my bones. It was calling out, and with each pulse, the ship's systems faltered more. I felt an undeniable pull toward the heart of the chaos, as if the answers lay waiting for me to unearth them. Just then, the ship jolted again, sending a crew member flying across the room. I rushed to help them, adrenaline ripping through me. "Stay with me, we need to stabilize this," I shouted. But in my chest, a deeper fear blossomed. What if we were already too late? We were racing against time, and the prophecy was unfolding. I could sense the threads of destiny weaving into a pattern I could not yet comprehend. The eerie silence of the cosmos felt like a paradox, filled with noise and dread, as I realized that the relic had awakened something far beyond our understanding, something that had lain in wait for eons. As I struggled to regain control, I thought of the other civilizations that had come before us, those who had reached for the stars only to grasp the void. Would we face their fate? Would we be swallowed by the darkness, lost to the ages? In that moment, I felt the weight of the universe pressing down on me, and I knew I had to face it. No longer could I linger in the shadows of my own fears. I had to confront the relic and its power, to find out what it truly meant, and in doing so, perhaps, I would uncover the truth of who I was meant to be in this vast, unforgiving cosmos. The alarms blared louder, drowning out my thoughts, but I pressed on. I would not allow fear to dictate my actions. The crew needed me, and no matter what awaited us, I would stand firm. With a heart full of determination and dread, I prepared for the coming storm, knowing that I had stepped into a tale woven with destiny, a battle that would echo through the stars. The control panel flickered, and for an instant, the glyphs transformed into a vivid display of images. I leaned closer, entranced, as if the very essence of the cosmos was revealing itself to me. Ancient ships, their hulls glistening in the light of distant stars, swirled before my eyes. I could almost hear the echoes of their long-lost crew, their laughter, their cries, fragments of lives lived eons ago, speaking directly to my soul. The visions pulsed with a life of their own, and I felt a connection, a thread woven between my heart and the heart of the universe. "Benson," Ilara's voice sliced through my reverie once more. "What are we seeing?" I struggled to articulate the weight of what I felt. It's, it's a history, a civilization that once thrived. They were explorers, just like us. "Can you isolate the signal?" Ilara demanded, her determination unwavering. I nodded, my fingers dancing over the console, weaving through data streams and historical records. Each keystroke sent shivers down my spine, the realization dawning that we were not the first to navigate the vastness of space. As I delved deeper, a new wave of glyphs materialized, illuminating the control room with an ethereal glow. They formed a prophecy, an ominous warning, and yet a call to arms. The words resonated not just through the air, but in my very core. "The vessel of fate carries a fleet across the void. Beware the shadows that stalk the stars, for they shall awaken a power long buried." I felt the collective breath of my crew catch in their throats. "What does that mean?" one of the technicians whispered, his voice trembling. "It means we're not just explorers," I replied, my voice barely a murmur. "We are part of something greater. We have awakened something." Ilara's brow furrowed, her mind racing. What do we do? The weight of decision hung heavy in her eyes. The atmosphere in the control room shifted, thick with an unspoken fear. Before I could respond, the lights flickered, the hum of the ship deepening into a growl. An alarm blared, drowning out our thoughts. Status, Ilara barked, her authority cutting through the chaos. Multiple anomalies detected, a crew member yelled, eyes wide with panic. It's everywhere, Commander. Energy surges, gravitational distortions. We're losing control. I felt the fear ripple through the room, a tangible force pressing down on us. We need to stabilize the signal, I urged, urgency igniting my veins. If we don't, it could tear us apart. Ilara nodded, her resolve hardening. Do it, now. I worked feverishly, fingers flying over the console, desperately reaching for control. The ancient signal pulsed erratically, as if it were aware of our panic, feeding off our fear. The glyphs on the screen morphed again, swirling into a vortex that threatened to consume us. "Benson, hold it steady," Ilara shouted, her voice a beacon amid the storm. I focused, drawing on every ounce of concentration I possessed, but time twisted and stretched. The control room began to shake, rattling our bodies like marionettes caught in a tempest. In that moment, I understood what the prophecy meant. It wasn't just a warning, it was a reminder of our fragility in the grand design of the universe. We were mere specks in the vastness of existence, and yet we had managed to awaken forces we could scarcely comprehend. "Benson," Ilara's voice cracked, desperation creeping in. "We can't hold on much longer." With one last surge of will, I pushed through the barriers of the signal. The glyphs spiraled into a singular point of light, and I felt a pulse of energy radiate outward, as if the very fabric of reality was being rewritten. Then silence. The control room fell still, the alarm silenced. The fading glow of the glyphs was replaced by darkness, leaving only the gentle hum of the ship in its wake. I exhaled slowly, my chest heavy with an unrelenting dread. Did we stabilize it?" Ilara asked, her voice a whisper now, as if the weight of our actions had stolen her strength. I glanced at the display, my heart racing as I scanned the data. "For now, yes," I replied, though I knew that this was merely the calm before the storm. But a sense of foreboding hung over us. I could feel it wrapping around my thoughts, coiling tighter with every heartbeat. Something was coming. The relic we had awakened was not merely a remnant of the past. It was a living entity, a harbinger of a fate we were not prepared to face. I looked into my crew's eyes, each of them reflecting a mixture of fear and resolve. Their lives would change irrevocably, and I was not sure how far we could navigate the darkness ahead. As the seconds stretched into eternity, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had crossed a threshold we could never return from. Suddenly, the control panel sparked to life again, the glyphs flaring back into existence, this time ominously bright. "Commander!" a voice cried out, panic rising once more. "We have incoming vessels. They're not responding to our hails." Ilara's eyes widened in horror. "What do you mean? Are they hostile?" "Unknown," the technician shouted over the din, "but the readings, there are too many. They're surrounding us." The realization crashed over me like a wave. We had triggered something deep within the cosmos, and now the galaxy was reacting. We had ignited a war we did not understand, and soon we would be at the center of it. "Prepare for battle," Ilara commanded, her voice now fierce and unwavering. "Benson, secure that signal. We need to know what we are dealing with." I nodded, heart racing, the weight of our discovery settling heavily on my shoulders. As we braced for the unknown, I felt a flicker of hope deep within me. Perhaps this relic held the key, not just to our survival, but to a greater understanding of the universe itself. As shadows loomed ever closer, I knew we would fight for the answers that had eluded us for so long. If you've ever stayed silent because you knew the universe wouldn't listen, write yes in the comments. The silence enveloped me, a void filled with unasked questions. I longed for a voice, a connection, something to break the oppressive stillness. The truth about the ancient relic weighed on me heavily, a burden I couldn't share, even with my closest friends aboard the Elysium. The knowledge that we were intertwined with a prophecy written 100,000 years ago, yet felt utterly disconnected. The thought was maddening. I had studied the glyphs, delving deep into their meanings, tracing lines that spoke of destinies and paths that converged like cosmic highways. My mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. What if the prophecy was true? What if our mission was more than just a search for knowledge? As a command fleet, we had always been at the forefront of exploration, but this felt different. This felt like a beckoning from the universe itself, urging us toward a confrontation we weren't prepared for. I found myself pacing in the shadows of the observation deck, staring out at the endless void. The stars twinkled like distant memories, reminders of both beauty and despair. Each one held a story, a journey that had begun long before I was born. I felt like a spectator in a theater, watching an epic play unfold, with no role in the narrative. My heart ached for purpose. But as the days stretched into long, silent nights, I began to wonder if the relic had awakened something beyond just fear within me. What if it had catalyzed a change, igniting a spark of latent potential? Could the ancient knowledge buried in my mind lead to some form of confrontation? Or was it merely a future filled with despair and loss? My pulse quickened at the thought. The crew remained blissfully unaware of my internal struggle. They continued to banter and share stories, their laughter like distant echoes in a vast canyon. I felt the warmth of their camaraderie, but also the chill of my isolation. I was slipping further away from them, pulled by the gravity of my thoughts. Every time I tried to engage, the glyphs would flood my mind, casting a shadow over my words. I felt more like an observer than a participant, a ghost haunting the corridors of a ship that was once my home. Weeks passed, and tensions began to creep into the crew's interactions. The laughter became a mask for unspoken fears. The mission was supposed to be a journey of discovery, yet uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud. I could sense the unease, the questions that lingered beneath the surface, threatening to bubble over. This energy thickened the air around us, a palpable reminder that something was coming. One day, I overheard a conversation in the mess hall. Two officers discussed their dreams, visions of the glyphs intertwining with their thoughts. They spoke of battles fought across star systems, of fleets clashing in the dark. They described what they saw in ways that shook me to my core. Were they experiencing fragments of the prophecy, or were they succumbing to the same madness that haunted me? As I listened, my heart raced, pounding against my ribs like a caged creature desperate to escape. I wanted to scream, to share my fears, but the words caught in my throat. I feared that if I revealed my knowledge, I would only burden them further. The truth was a heavy chain, and I couldn't bear the thought of dragging them into the darkness I had uncovered. Besides, what could I say? Hey, everyone, I think we're part of an ancient prophecy about a catastrophe that could end us all. No, that wouldn't do. Instead, I kept my silence, my thoughts twisting in the dark like the endless depths of space. As I lay in my quarters at night, the stars filtering through the viewport, I felt a presence looming over me, a shadow of something ancient and powerful. It beckoned me to understand, to embrace the truth. I was standing on the brink of something monumental, and yet I was terrified to take the leap. What awaited us on the other side of this knowledge? Would it be a path to salvation or destruction? The days turned into weeks, the tension thickening as we climbed deeper into the abyss of uncertainty. It was during one of those sleepless nights that I finally found the courage to confront the glyphs again. I sat in the dim light of my quarters, the walls closing in like the spiraling galaxies I often gazed upon. With trembling fingers, I traced their lines, allowing my mind to sink into their depths once more. As I deciphered their meanings, a revelation washed over me. The glyphs spoke of unity, of alliances forged in the fires of conflict. They whispered of choices we would face, paths diverging across the stars. The universe was not merely a cold, indifferent expanse. It was alive, an interconnected web of destinies, and we were a part of it. My heart quickened as I realized that we held the power to shape our fate. But the weight of responsibility was staggering. If we were to rise to the challenge, I knew I had to share what I understood. I needed to break the silence that bound me. I wasn't alone in this. The crew needed to know. We could harness the power of the prophecy, use it to unite rather than succumb to fear. But how could I convince them? How could I shatter the silence that had become my prison? As the stars blinked outside my window, I made a vow to myself. I would find a way to share my truth, to weave our fates together in the face of the unknown. I could no longer remain a ghost in the shadows. It was time to step into the light, to face the storm brewing beyond the horizon. The cosmos awaited, and I would rise to meet it, even if it meant risking everything. With that thought echoing in my mind, I drifted off to sleep, the weight of uncertainty still heavy on my chest, but a flicker of hope ignited in my heart. The universe had its mysteries, and together we would unveil them. The silence would no longer hold me captive. I would find my voice, and with it, a way to unite the command fleet against the darkness that loomed ahead. The control room fell silent, a heavy blanket of uncertainty wrapping around us. The screens continued to pulse with the ancient glyphs, casting shadows on my crew's faces. I felt that every heartbeat echoed the gravity of our situation, a heart that matched the rhythm of the universe itself. The words hung in the air, reverberating in my mind. We have awakened something. A chill ran down my spine as I processed the meaning of the glyphs. This wasn't merely a warning, it was a revelation. The shadows they spoke of were not just metaphors. We were playing with forces we barely understood, and I could feel the weight of destiny upon us. I took a deep breath, pushing the rising tide of panic aside. We need to prepare. We've stirred something awake. Ilara's eyes narrowed, her determination sparking like a dying star igniting anew. But how do we fight against something we don't even understand? The uncertainty in her voice echoed the thoughts racing through my mind. I could feel the urgency building. The prophecy was a thread woven into the fabric of time, and we stood at a precipice, ready to either leap into the void or retreat into the safety of ignorance. "Knowledge is our best weapon," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to decipher the rest of this." I gestured toward the screens, where the glyphs danced like fireflies in the night, shimmering with cryptic energy. There's more here. We just have to find it. With a newfound resolve, we began to work as a cohesive unit, our fingers flying across the controls, sifting through data that felt both ancient and eerily familiar. As the shimmering symbols shifted and changed, more visions emerged, each more vivid than the last. I watched as star maps unfolded, revealing paths that had once been traveled by ancient ships. I could see them navigating through cosmic storms, escaping gravitational traps, and exploring lush alien worlds. In those fleeting moments, I understood that we were not merely uncovering history, we were walking the footsteps of giants. For every triumph we uncovered, there were traces of loss and sorrow. The laughter of explorers faded into the cries of a civilization that had once thrived, now lost to the annals of time. They had faced their own shadows, and as I witnessed their journey, I felt an unshakable connection. This relic, this oracle, wasn't just a remnant of the past, it was a bridge between our existence and theirs. Benson, look! Ilara's voice broke through my reverie. I turned to see a new set of glyphs materializing, swirling with energy. They formed a pattern, revealing a location. It's a planet. The coordinates, they're in an uncharted sector. Hope and dread mingled in my chest. If we followed the trail, we might uncover the source of the shadows, but the risk was monumental. What if it leads us into a trap? Ilara shook her head, her resolve unwavering. It's a risk we must take. We can't let fear dictate our actions. If we're to understand what we've awakened, we need to confront it head-on. I knew she was right. The weight of the decision pressed down on me, but the thrill of the unknown, call to adventure, surged within me. I had felt small in the vastness of space before, but this moment transformed that insignificance into purpose. Set a course for the coordinates, I commanded, my voice firm. As the engines roared to life, I felt the surge of adrenaline, a blend of anxiety and excitement. The ship lurched forward, tearing through the vast emptiness of space towards the unknown. The stars blurred around us, and anticipation buzzed in the air like static electricity. Our crew worked seamlessly, each member channeling their fears into action, their faces illuminated by the glow of the control panels. It felt like an eternity, but soon we approached the uncharted planet. It was beautiful, a swirling mass of greens and blues, teeming with the promise of life. But the atmosphere crackled with tension, as if the planet itself sensed our arrival. I could feel the weight of the shadows lurking just beyond our sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. Stay alert, I reminded everyone as we descended through the clouds. We don't know what we're walking into. The landing was smooth, but the moment the ship door opened, an unbearable silence enveloped us. The air felt thick, heavy with anticipation. The landscape sprawled before us, lush with towering trees and glowing flora, but an unsettling stillness pervaded the air. It felt wrong, as if the very essence of the planet held its breath in waiting. "Where do we start?" one of my crew members asked, glancing around nervously. I stepped forward, drawn by an unseen force. The glyphs from the control room echoed in my mind, guiding me like a lighthouse through the fog. "This way," I urged, moving toward a clearing that felt alive with energy. The moment our boots touched the ground, the shadows stirred. They flickered at the edge of my vision, tendrils reaching out as if testing their strength against the light. I felt the fear ripple through my crew, and I turned to face them. We've come too far to turn back now. We have to push forward. As we reached the clearing, a massive stone structure loomed before us, covered in the same glyphs that had once whispered their secrets to me. I approached, my heart pounding with anticipation. This was it, the heart of the prophecy. I placed my hand against the cool stone, feeling the energy thrumming beneath the surface. Suddenly, the glyphs flared to life, pulsating with light as they transformed into images. I gasped as I saw the ancient civilization once more, their faces filled with hope, love, and a fierce determination. Then darkness swept through, consuming them one by one, shadows rising from their own creations. I stumbled back, the weight of their loss crashing over me like an avalanche. "Benson!" Ilara shouted, her voice breaking through the darkness. I reached out for her, the connection grounding me. "You're losing yourself." "I'm fine," I whispered, though I knew it was a lie. I felt a connection to their pain, their failures, but I also felt their strength. They had faced the shadows and had left us this warning, a chance to choose differently. "This is our moment," I said, turning to face my crew. "We can break this cycle. We can choose to rise above the darkness. This relic isn't just a warning, it's a guide." With each word, I felt a shift within me. The shadows that once danced around our ship retreated, hesitant in the face of our resolve. I drew in a deep breath, allowing the energy of the ancient civilization to flow through me, igniting a fire of determination. We must be the ones to forge a new destiny. As we stood in the clearing, surrounded by the echoes of the past, I realized that the shadows would always exist, but they didn't need to define us. We had the power to illuminate the darkness, to learn from our predecessors rather than succumb to their fate. "Let's finish what they started," I declared, my voice ringing with purpose. "Let's forge a future where shadows are but a reminder of the light we can become." With newfound resolve, we prepared to leave the planet, the knowledge and strength of the ancient civilization coursing through us. Our journey was far from over, but now we carried the weight of their legacy, a legacy not just of loss, but of hope, courage, and the enduring power of human spirit. As we ascended back into the stars, I felt the bonds between my crew tighten, united in a purpose greater than ourselves. We were explorers, yes, but we were also guardians of a truth that transcended time. The universe had revealed its secrets, and in that revelation, we had found our own. In the vastness of space, I now understood. The echoes of the past do not just haunt us, they guide us toward the light.